Welcome to the crazy world of the DuQuette house. We're desperately house hunting and getting all sorts of phone calls in and out and things like that. So I'm a little harried today. I'll probably be harried until we're in a new place. So uh, hold a thought for my blood pressure, please. So anyway, we're reading from our homemade Rite of Eleusis, the Rite of Earth here, which is the very back section of Homemade Magic, uh, which will be out later this summer in its wonderful new second edition. Uh, we left yesterday at the very opening of the rite, and conforming to the format that Crowley set for his seven rites of Eleusis. We started off with a recitation from the Treasure House of Images, or the Liber 963, uh, and the one that's appropriate for Taurus, the fixed earth one. And Constance read that for us yesterday because she's always played Persephone. And in the ritual itself, the ritual starts off in what we call the citadel. It's the indoor scene of the rite. And there's the rite begins and ends indoors, and we call that the citadel, like the citadel of Eleusis. And it's sort of dimly lit at first, and the character who's going to play Persephone comes out at first and reads that Treasure House of Images, which Constance read yesterday. And then the officer who will play Hermes steps up and introduces the entire play with a prologue in sort of a Shakespearean fashion, where the prologue, they tell you everything that's going to happen in the play. Okay, at first they tell you the whole story, and then just like in Romeo and Juliet, the narrator comes out and talks about two star-crossed lovers will do da da da, and they tell the whole freaking story right at the first. And at the beginning of Henry V, they just tell the whole plot right there. That way you can sort of enjoy the drama as it unfolds. So in this case, Hermes is going to relate to everyone assembled on the living room floor there, or in the citadel, what's about to take place. Hermes steps forward. Doug James always did this just wonderful for us. Let me sing to you the song of Demeter. Okay, I've taken this prologue almost directly from Homer's hymn to Demeter. Let me sing to you the song of Demeter, holy Dio, the lady of the harvest, the great mother goddess whose hair grew in rich plaits, and of her daughter Persephone, whom Hades, the lord of the underworld, seized for his bride. Zeus, the thunder god, gave the girl to him as she was playing, far from her mother, gathering flowers with the daughters of the ocean. Earth brought forth the narcissus to lure her. Amazed at the beauty of the flower, she stretched out both her hands to take it. As she did, the earth yawned open, and Lord Hades burst forth from the underworld in a golden chariot drawn by his immortal horses. Screaming for pity and fighting him off, Persephone was dragged into the chariot, calling, "Father, Zeus, Zeus!" But only the goddess Hecate from her cave, and the Lord Helios, the brilliant son of Hyperion, heard the poor girl's cries. The peaks of the mountains echoed with her voice until at last her mother also heard her cries. So bitter was the pain that seized Demeter's heart that she tore the gossamer veil off her head and threw over her shoulders a great black cloak, the mantle of death. Demeter flew swift as a bird over land and sea in search of her daughter, but no one, neither god nor mortal, dared tell her the truth. For 9 days, Holy Dio wandered the earth carrying blazing torches in her hands. So great was her grief that she refused the taste of ambrosia and the sweet nectar of the gods and shunned the bath. When dawn arrived on the 10th day, the goddess Hecate met her, holding a flame in her hand and bringing Demeter a message of her daughter's abduction, telling her of Lord Helios's knowledge of the details of the divine conspiracy between Zeus and Hades. Hecate and Demeter then sped straight to Helios, the sun, watchman of the gods and of men. Demeter said, "Helios, since we are both gods, you must help me. I bore a daughter, a beautiful child with a lovely face, whose cries I heard from the uncharted skies, the cries of a captive. Although I could not see anything with mine own eyes. But you, because you see everything, you must tell me the truth. Did you see what happened to my child?" Lord Helios replied, "Lady Demeter, you will know the truth. Zeus alone of the immortals is to blame, for he gave the child to Hades, his own brother, to have for his wife. But goddess, be comforted. Hades is your brother also, and not an unfitting husband from among the immortals. As for honor, he has his third of the world that he received when the realms were first apportioned. He is the Lord over all he receiveth, and all with whom he dwells." Hearing this, Demeter's grief became anguish, and her heart swelled with wrath. Angry with Zeus, she shunned the assembly of the god on lofty Olympus and went in disguise to dwell among mortal men. No man or woman knew who she was. She arrived at length at the holy city of Eleusis, where the citadel sits like a crown upon the city, home to the honored Celeus, who at the time was lord of Eleusis. Coaxed by the 4 daughters of Celeus, Demeter, looking like a crone, became the nurse to the newborn son of Celeus and the lady Metaneria. During her stay with this blessed family, the goddess refused all wine, taking only a mixture of barley and water and the tender leaves of glecon. She would lift the little baby in her mortal hands and hold him to her fragrant breast to nurse. The child flourished and grew like a god, for he fed not on mother's milk, but on ambrosia, with which Demeter anointed him as if born a god himself. She inspired him with her divine breath and sweetly rocked him in her lap. At night, in a secret ceremony, she would bury him in the powers of the fire upon the hearth to forge within him the magic of immortality. But his parents knew none of this, and to them the child seemed like a miracle, a prodigy, somehow divine. Demeter would have made him ageless and immortal, if not for the folly of Metaneria, his own mother. One night, watching from the sweet-smelling chamber, she spied on the goddess at her magic, and alarmed by what she saw, shrieked in terror for her child. Enraged at this mortal interruption, Demeter grabbed the child from the fire and hurled him to the ground. All men are fools. They lack the sense to foresee their fate as it comes upon them, good or ill, whatever it may be. I swear by the river Styx that I would have made this child ageless for all time, and I would have granted him undying honor. Now he can never escape the demons that shall bring his death. As she said this, she transformed herself into the true and glorious beauty. The palace was filled with the terrible brilliance of 1,000 bolts of lightning. I am Demeter, the one supreme in honor, for I am the source of life and joy both for mortals and immortals. This is what you must do. Have your people build me a temple with an altar before it, and let it be built beside the fortress of the high city. I myself shall institute my rites so that you may perform them, and by doing so appease my wrath. When the people had finished the temple, they went home, each to his own house. But Demeter remained there, sitting apart from all the blessed gods and wasting away with longing for her daughter. Then she created a deadly year for mankind, withering the soil that once was so nourishing. The earth would not send up seeds because she kept them hidden. Seeing this, Zeus feared in his heart that if mankind should perish, who then would honor and give sacrifice to the gods? So he sent Iris, who flies on wings of gold, to call upon Demeter and coax her back to the joys of Olympus. But Demeter's mind would not be changed. Then Father Zeus sent out all the blessed gods. One by one they went to her and gave her many splendid gifts, and let her choose as much honor as she might want among the immortals. But none could persuade her to change her mind. She said she would never again set foot on Olympus, or let the earth bear fruit unless she saw her daughter with her own eyes. Finally, Zeus sent Hermes to great Hades so that he might exhort him with soft words and let him lead holy Persephone out of the sunless west and into the light. Then her mother would see her with her own eyes and change her mind. So, leaving the seat of Olympus, Hermes obeyed and rushed through the hollows of the earth. He found the Lord of the Dead seated in his house on a couch with his awesome wife, but she was not there by her own will. She longed only to be with her mother, who was far away. Hermes said to Hades, Lord of Death, Father Zeus commanded me to lead glorious Persephone out of Erebus and back to the gods to appease her mother's wrath and horrible anger against the gods. Demeter is planning a great act of vengeance. She's going to destroy the feeble race of mortals who dwell on the earth and so cause the honors that are paid to the gods to perish. Hades smiled and told Persephone that she could go and rejoin her mother and the gods. But first, he suggested she refresh herself by eating of a pomegranate. Secretly, he knew that if she ate of the fruit of the underworld, she could not remain forever with her mother, but instead must return to the underworld and spent 1/3 of each year as his bride. Hermes took Persephone to the temple of Demeter at Eleusis, where her mother waited her. When she saw her daughter, Demeter ran to her like a Maenad racing madly through the mountain woods. Persephone, for her part, when seeing her mother's beautiful eyes, leaped from the chariot of Hermes and fell on her knees embracing her mother. The joyous reunion was marred by Demeter's discovery of Hades' trick, for she knew that if her daughter had taken food of the underworld, then their reunion must be broken for 1/3 of each year. But their embrace finally softened their grief, each giving and receiving joy. Then came to them Hecate, who wears a delicate veil. She also caressed the daughter of holy Demeter, and from that time Lady Hecate was the companion of Persephone. Father Zeus then sent Rhea, his own mother, to escort Demeter back to the race of gods. When Zeus promised to give her whatever honors she wanted from the immortal gods, and he consented to the plan that Persephone spend 1/3 of each spiraling year in the dark where the sun goes down, and 2/3 with her mother and the other immortals. Then Demeter's made fruits spring up from the rich plowlands, and the whole world became heavy with leaves and flowers. That's the end of the prologue of Hermes. Part 2, Hermes will take the Misties out of the citadel and into the backyard. The outdoor scenes, which we'll take up tomorrow. Continue to hold a good thought and for us to find a good place to relocate. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.